there will be difficult conversations with your children. But the children are capable of having those conversations. You just have to give them the chance to have them, open up to have those conversations. The other part is that, as we talked about before, Black history is complicated. It's not all rainbows and Skittles, but it is worth knowing. And there is joy in Black history. We hear so much pain and so forth, but we need to celebrate more joy in Black history, and it exists.
No matter where you come from or what challenges you face, remember that you have the power to transform your life. We're bringing you the most inspiring stories and voices from authors who are indeed powerful forces for the culture in their work. These interviews will keep you believing in yourself, inspire you to keep pushing forward, and most importantly, never ever stop dreaming. It's your boy, Uncle Kolby, and this is the Kolby Kulture Show. What's up, Kolby Culture fam? It's Uncle Kolby, your favorite uncle, and you're back with the show where culture meets creativity and stories come alive. Today, we're in for a real treat with the amazing Kim C. Lee, author of some fantastic children's books. But first, let's kick things off with this week's literary drop. All right, y'all. This week, we're diving into a love song for Ricky Wilde by New York Times bestselling author Tia Williams. This book is an emotional roller coaster that takes you through the highs and lows of love, fame, and self-discovery. Ricky Wilde, a once promising pop star, finds herself at a crossroads, battling past demons and searching for her true voice. It's a soulful, heart-wrenching story that'll make you laugh, cry, and cheer. Don't miss it. And you know how we do. A full review will be posted on my website, djacobywashington.com, ahead of next week's episode. This has been this week's literary drop. Now on to our guest for this week, Kim C. Lee. She's the author of enchanting children's books that light up young minds and hearts. Kim's stories are all about fostering imagination, creativity, and a love for reading. Let's welcome the amazing Kim C. Lee to the Kolby Kulture Show. Hey. What's up, Kim?
Hey, how are you?
I am great. How are you?
I am fantastic. I've had a long day, but I am happy to be here. Excited to chat with you, excited to share about my books. And just hear what others they want to know and just chat.
Awesome. Well, I'm super excited to have you on the show today. Listen, folks, I had the opportunity to read Kim's book, The Night Owl Goes to Space, on my show, Storytime with Uncle Kolby, a while back. And it is an absolutely amazing read. I had not met her in person until a few months back at the Kensington Book Festival. And so I'm super excited again to have you on the show this evening. So Kim, let's kick things off. Your books are such a hit with kids and parents alike. Tell us a little bit about what inspired you to start writing children's books.
Definitely. And thank you so much for having me again. My books really started as a gift for my son. A joke about not going to bed at night turned into my first book, The Night Owl. And from there, I realized that a lot of parents have this issue with children not going to bed at night. And there was a lot of people who shared that book. And, I just found a real joy in sharing the story and actually writing a book that reflected my son. A lot of other parents told me that their kids also saw themselves in that character. And it was just, I guess a bug just bit me. So I went on to write more books. And for the most part, they're ingrained in real stories. I want to write about real experiences. And I want to make sure there's representation of real people in those books, particularly African-American children. So that's how I started writing. That's what's really ingrained in them. I do want to point out, meet Frankie Jordan, who's over here. This is my niece's story. It was very important to me for her character specifically to look like her, a rich chocolate brown girl who loves art with curls and so forth. So I'm going to continue writing that, and that's what I focus on for my books.
I love it. And so that moves us to our next question. Your characters are really relatable and vibrant. So tell us a little bit about how you come up with these amazing stories and characters.
Definitely. So as I mentioned, my stories are rooted in reality. They're not exact. I take the some little leeway to be a little bit creative, but they really are rooted in truth. There are stories about people, places, and things that I know. All of my characters are people I know. So the night owl is reflective of my own son, this boy who still doesn't like to go to bed. As I mentioned, Meet Frankie Jordan is about my niece. She is an artist. Indeed, I'm so proud of her. She's currently pursuing an art degree. But this is her story when she was growing up, watching her experiment with art, seeing that other children always wanted her to do something else, and wanted to just really encourage and celebrate the fact that she held steady to her love of art. I also have Grand Joy, which I don't have behind me because it's sold out, which is fantastic. Grand Joy was written with a good friend of mine, Denise K. Hendershot, and it is reflective of a diverse family and set of friends. All the characters in that book are people that we know, family, friends. And then upcoming, we have right here behind me, which is A Proud History for Alex. In this story, the characters specifically are not people that exist, but they exist in the sense of experience. Okay. So it's about a little boy who he knows Black history. He's been exposed to Black history, and he loves social studies, and his class is heading out on a field trip to a museum. And that museum is a real museum in Maryland. It's called the Sandy Springs Slave Museum and African Art Gallery. Wow. And with that name, the slavery embedded in that name for the museum, he has hesitation. You know, we have heard so much about what kids learn in their experiences, and the thought of slavery it's a heavy one. You know, it's not associated with joy. It's not a joyful thing, but it is history, and it's something that we need to know. Yeah. But the story just follows that little boy and his feelings of reflecting on not wanting to go and learn about slavery, and really discovering that there's more to Black history than just slavery, and that this museum is representative of all those different things.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. We're going to talk a little bit more about that book in just a moment. Those of you that are just tuning in, I'm talking to the amazing Kim C. Lee, children's book author. So Kim, diversity is a big theme in your books. Why is it important, in your opinion, for children to see themselves and others in the stories that they read?
Yes. So I think that at this point, if everyone does not, understand and realize why diversity is important, you have to be under a rock somewhere, right? We know that when we see ourselves, there's a different type of connection to whatever is happening with the character or the person that embodies whatever it is that we are witnessing. So children are no different. If children are able to see people who look like them, doing the things that they aspire to do, dream to do, are curious about, they see it as something that's more attainable. When they have experiences that align with them, whether they be good or bad, there's an understanding that they're not alone in experiencing those things, that their experiences are valid, that they are valued, all of those different things. So diversity is important for all of those reasons. And I want to make sure that, a lot of the times we talk about diversity in terms of what we see. And a lot of people think about diversity, especially in this day and age when we're talking about all the DEI stuff happening in schools and in the news and so forth. But we think mostly about what we can see. But there are dimensions of diversity that go beyond what you can see. There's neurodiverse people. They may think different. They may react differently. So we have to keep that in mind also. And I haven't personally written about stories that reflect diverse things that you can't see. But I think that when parents are searching for books, they should keep that in mind, that their children or children that they know may be having these experiences, and they need to be able to relate to those things as well. Absolutely.
Absolutely. You spoke a little bit earlier about your newest book. I want to kind of segue there. Can you tell us a bit more about A Proud History for Alex, and really what is the message that you want kids to take away from it?
Definitely. So A Proud History for Alex was actually born out of, I'm going to say friendship. And we were talking a little bit about this earlier, but the Sandy Spring Slave Museum and African Art Gallery in Sandy Spring, Maryland, they were one of the first places to like really support me when I started authoring. So I'll forever be grateful for that and appreciate it and so forth. They sold my books, they shared it out. And this is when I did no promotion for my book. My first book, I did no promotion for it. They shared it everywhere. They're always encouraging me and so forth. So I've gotten to know the individuals there. Some of them I already knew because they are close knit family and they know my family and so forth, but they tremendous support there, right? So I've gotten to know them, and one of the co-directors actually reached out to me and said, hey, I want to write a book. And his name is Dr. Troy Body. And he, in his own right, has accomplished so many fantastic things. I can't wait for my personal audience to meet him. I'll be doing a chat with him, but he's fantastic in his own right. He is already an author. He works in diversity, organizational learning. He is a professor at Bowie. So he has this breadth, but he said, I want to write a book. And, I was hesitant at first because diving into like history, I thought he wanted to write a history book. He said, yeah, that's not quite my thing. I'm in the children's book lane. I'm enjoying it here. I think I want to stay here right now. But, through our conversation, we were able to find a middle ground for how we can create together. And we were even able to incorporate some of the artwork that he does. But that's how the book was born. And then just again, in navigating through what this story could look like, considering these characters and what the experience may be. Alex, the main character, his experience for me, I during our process, I would call to my son and I would say, what do you think about this? I mean, I've talked to him before, so I had some idea about his thoughts, but for the book, I wanted it to be fresh. So the perspective that Alex has, I know when I was contributing to the book, it was really rooted in my son's experience. And I think the beautiful thing about that is that as my son grows, I'm able to see these different experiences similar to other parents, but I'm able to incorporate them and see how it evolves, over time. But that's how the book came about. We're really, really excited about it. It's dropping on June 25th. Get pre-orders in.
Right.
And we're going to have a release party on the 29th at the museum. So I'm really excited about that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And what's the central message that you want folks to take from that book?
Yes, I forgot that part. I think the central message is that, there will be difficult conversations with your children. But children are capable of having those conversations. You just have to give them the chance to have them, open up to have those conversations. The other part is that, as we talked about before, Black history is complicated. It's not all rainbows and Skittles, but it is worth knowing. And there is joy in Black history. We hear so much pain and so forth, but we need to celebrate more joy in Black history, and it exists. So when you talk about your children, not talk about your children, but when you talk about Black history, focus on the joyful things. They need to know these things. They need to know, where they came from. They need to know the inventions that Black people created. They need to know the advancements in science. They need to know the art. And now that I think about this as I'm talking to you, I think this is a natural progression for me, because in Meet Frankie Jordan, I also sought to highlight lesser known artists to children. I don't know about you, but for me, I didn't really dive into that sort of information until I was in college. And I had to take African American studies to really dive into that. It's not readily taught, but there's no reason why we can't reach beyond and teach earlier on in their years, right? If we don't take charge and make sure that they're educated with that, then they will have to wait. And it's not limited to just Black children. All children can know about it. We learn other people's history, so our history should be open and available to everybody else as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Folks, again, we're talking to the amazing Kim C. Lee, children's book author. Get those questions in. We're going to segue into our audience interaction in just a moment. So if you have a question for Kim, post it there in the comment section. I keep looking over this way, Kim, because my IG's up on this screen. And so I want to make capture those questions as well.
That's really fun.
But before we move to our audience interaction, we were just talking about like some of the lessons that stem from your books. And so with your stories touching on important values and lessons, tell us a little bit about how you balance storytelling with teaching, really these essential life skills.
I think that if I'm going to be honest, when I go into writing, I don't think I do it like everybody else. First of all, I can't write until like lightning has to strike and it has to be like, this is it. The story has to be.
I feel seen.
It has to be exactly like I'm not setting a timer in writing. I do want to try and do more of that to be more focused. But for right now, with everything else that I have going on, like I'm not a full-time author. But with everything else going on, it has to come to me. It really has to click. The reason has to be behind it. So when it comes to me and it's fluid, then I start writing and it comes together and it makes sense for me. There are times when I have to rework it because logically, when you think about children reading, you have to fill in some spaces, right? And sometimes the illustrations do that, but other times you have to make sure you use the right language, and that the story, moves forward in a certain way. So the balancing of the story and the lessons, I would say that in general, it's not necessarily an outright, probably like you and me, we don't really want someone wagging their finger in our face saying, you should be doing this. This is the lesson. Da, 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 da. They don't necessarily want that. So you have to embed it in some way. I think repetition, I use a lot of rhyme in my books. Some of them aren't rhyme, but I love rhyme because I just like it. I think it's a good way to memorize and so forth. I think it's a good way for children to learn. But the repeating and hearing something over and over again, I think is a good way to embed, especially if you're doing affirmations. I know you have affirmation book coming out. Yep. So similarly, like restating something and not being as direct about it. They get it. We just need to give kids a little bit more credit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Let's segue to a bit more lighter questions, if you will. Okay. So I love this part of our show is called the Culture Quickfire because it really gets our guests thinking beyond, what they typically discuss. And so these are quick questions that warrant quick answers. Okay. So let's see how fast you can think on your feet. Are you ready?
Let's see.
All right, let's go.
Okay. Let's see.
Here we go. First book from your childhood, or favorite book from your childhood, rather.
My favorite book is A Light in the Attic by Shel Silverstein.
A Light in the Attic. One word to describe your writing style.
What is it called?
Okay. Best piece of advice for young readers.
Read what you're interested in.
Great advice. Favorite place to write?
My mobile phone. I'm heavy in the notes.
Okay, same. The one book every child should read.
I think every child should have an ABC book. It's not any particular book, but ABC book, definitely.
Okay, cool. So you made it through the Culture Quickfire?
Yeah. I was nervous.
You did amazing. All right, fam, let's hear from you. We've got some questions from our listeners for Kim. Again, those of you that are tuning in, I'm talking to the amazing Kim C. Lee, children's book author. Those of you that are on IG, certainly post your questions there in the comment section so that we can be sure to ask Kim. But we've gotten some questions that have already come through. So question number one from our audience, Kim, what's the most memorable feedback you received from a child or parent about your books?
I don't know if I hear a lot of time, I love this character, I love this book, especially with the Night Owl. So just having children say that they see themselves in the characters, I think that's it for me. Recognizing it and embracing it and being able to point themselves out. It makes them feel like they've won something in a sense. You know what I mean? Like they are the celebrity or, you know, the superhero or whatever, but that does it for me.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Which of your characters do you relate to the most and why?
Um, so I relate to the mom in the Night Owl book because when I wrote it, it was supposed to be reflective of me and my son.
Mhm.
So I'm the mother saying you need to go to bed
Hmm.
and take your butt upstairs to the bed, you know,
Mhm.
to get in it and so forth. But from the children's perspective, I think the child characters, I relate to all of them again because they are people. They're pieces of people that I know.
Yeah.
So I embrace all of them. I love all of them. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. What advice do you have for aspiring children's book authors?
Just start. I get that
Mm,
question often, and I think people are looking more for resources, and sometimes they haven't even started writing anything.
yeah.
So they're more focused on the process versus creating content.
Yeah.
So start writing it. The process to refine it and so forth will come later, but the hardest part is just getting the story that you want to publish.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. Just write however it comes to you. Write. Get it out of your head and
Yes.
onto to some pages. How do you handle writer's block, especially when creating for kids?
I just stop writing. I just go do something else. And sometimes that writer's block lasts quite a while.
Mm,
I have about 5 stories sitting unfinished. I'll circle back around to them. Again, I'm waiting for the lightning to strike.
yeah.
So, I'm not a fighter in that sense. I know other people have techniques that they use to work around it, but I feel like if something is rushed, it doesn't come out right. You know,
Yeah.
you have regrets later. So I wait it out.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. Tell us a little bit about like your writing process, because if I'm not mistaken, you didn't go the traditional publishing route. You are
I did
self-publishing.
it.
You have a publishing company as well. So
Hmm.
tell us a little bit about what that process was like for you in writing your first book. Because I know for me, I did not set out. I tell people all the time, I didn't set out to be a children's book author. That was like the furthest thing from my mind. But then
Hmm.
COVID happened, George Floyd happened, and then suddenly there was just this great inspiration, right? And this desire to write, not necessarily for it to become a book, but really to get out my thoughts and emotions. And it wasn't until I spoke to other people that they were like, okay, you need to turn this into a book. And so once I heard that a few times, I'm like, okay, well, maybe there's something to this. And so I released my first book. But I know that, you know, especially for folks that don't go the traditional route, the traditional publishing route and are more self-published, that journey can be a bit daunting, if you will.
Challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your experience there and kind of what was going through your mind.
Yeah. So I actually wrote my first book pre-pandemic.
Mm,
And I think I wanted to publish a book, but it was kind of like it wasn't priority. It was kind of like
mhm,
one day I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna figure it out.
mhm.
Um, and I just sat on it because I didn't give it the attention or, you know, life gets in the way, you know,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. But during the pandemic, I had a friend who had published her own book. So shout out to Linda Mallory.
Hey.
But she said, "Hey, she said you need to publish that. You need to publish it." And I was like, "But I have to get an agent. You know, I have to do this. I have to do that." She's like, "No, you can publish the book. I've published a book." And I was like, "You published a book?" So she told me about the process and some of the resources that I could use to publish. So my first round, I did that. So I went through the book was written. I kind of sat on it for a while. I worked with some resources that she knew to get it published. It was out there.
Mhm.
Now, every time I did a next book, you know, the iteration of publishing, I refined it more.
Mhm.
And so I have a background in technology, and I actually started off as a web developer.
Mm.
So web developer and doing some graphic design. But I like to think of myself as a Jill of all trades. Like if I really want to do it and I need to figure it out and I put the effort into it, I'm pretty sure I can do it.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, publishing is expensive. So
Wait, say it
I
again
think
from
that
the back.
publishing is expensive. So I think a lot of time people see books in the store and wherever else, and there's like this glamorized aspect of getting your book out there. And it probably is glamorized when you're going through traditional publishing. A lot of that time, your traditional publishing house will pay for those things ahead, and then as you sell books, the money that you earn from selling the books may repay in advance, or maybe covering some of those other parts. So it's not just like, the money is not just like out there. Right. But if you're doing it on your own, you are wearing 11 hats.
Yes.
You are the marketer, you are the accountant, you are the publicist, you are blah, 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 blah. And you can outsource some of those things, but most people, when they start off, they're doing all those things themselves because they're learning the process. Yeah. So me, after I went through the first iteration, I started asking a little bit more detailed questions. What are you using to produce this? Why are you doing that? Like, I wanted to know, because I was evaluating whether or not I could do it myself and whether or not the money that I was spending to pay for someone else to do things like format my books was worthwhile, or could I shift that money to another part of the process that was more expensive? For me, I don't know about for you, but for me, the illustrations are the most expensive part of the publishing process. Getting artwork is expensive. You have to pay people for their artwork. Yeah. So figuring that out, I was able to pick up all these different aspects of how I can publish my book and learn the resources to do it. So, I shaved off those costs with regards to formatting books, website development. I had these other things in my pocket. I was familiar with the software and so forth. So as I progress, I now I'm at the point where I do my entire book from start to end. Well, I don't illustrate and I don't edit.
Okay.
I do graphic design, but I don't do any editing. I wouldn't even trust myself to do that. I'm not skilled in that area. I'm very familiar with Grammarly and spell check, but you always need a second or third set of eyes to evaluate what you have written. But, I pay for that. I pay for those services to ensure that, and then sometimes there's still a mistake here or there, but I do pay for those services. But for the most part, I'm able to do from soup to nuts, all of that stuff myself. And I'm able to offer those services to other authors now. So I work a lot behind the scenes to help other people do those things. And I do it under my publishing company. I do not publish other people's books under my company at this time. Anyway, I've been weighing that. But I do go through that process. All of my books are published under my company called Hoot Off the Press. And it is Hoots because of the Night Owl. The Night Owl inspired that. But that's how I started, and that's how I got to where I am now.
Awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. Folks, those of you that are just joining, I'm speaking to, again, the amazing Kim C. Lee, children's book author. Check her out. So Kim, I want to transition now to our last game. This is actually one of my favorite. It's called Word Wave. And so we even got some background music to go with Word Wave. And see if I was
very relaxing.
Like I'm talking to an author from another genre. I'd be like, grab your glass of wine. We're gonna play some, and it's gonna be, lit. So, so the way that this works is, I'll give you a word, and you respond with the first words or thought that comes to mind related to you. All right.
Okay.
All right. Here we go. First word: imagination.
Unlimited.
Wait, tell us more about this. Sometimes I kind of deviate from that one word.
I chose unlimited because there is no bound to what you can do or accomplish in using your imagination. So
yeah, I love that. Adventure.
I want to say expensive. And my mind goes to travel for some reason when I'm thinking about it. Not necessarily book focused, but yeah, adventure in my mind is expensive. Not that it's not worth it or money cannot be spent, but I'm envisioning expensive adventure.
Luxury. Yeah, I get it.
Luxury, right? Exactly.
Friendship.
Genuine.
Talk more about that.
I think that friendship, especially as I've grown over the years, the definition of that has changed, or how you think about it has changed. You know, when you're younger, you have tons of friends. But over the years, my circle has become smaller. And that's not to say that you don't talk to or associate with other people, but you have your core genuine friends, the ones who know you through and through, in and out. They know your tells, you know, all of that stuff. So friendship to me means the genuine people that you have in your life.
Yeah. Learning.
Forever. I'm a forever student, a forever learner. I am not a collector of degrees, but I am a collector of information. And I think that I will continue to do that. I love learning environments, so I'll continue to do that forever.
Yeah. Courage.
Dig deep. Maybe dig deep. Maybe because sometimes you have to dig deep to have that courage. I talk a lot to my son about doing the right thing, even when everyone is going, you know, the other way, even if you need to dig deep. So yeah, that's what I'll go with.
I love that. Creative.
Lots of possibilities. I think that's similar to imagination, you know, unlimited. There's so many things you can do with that.
Yeah. Last one. Fun.
Laughter. Fun is so broad, right? I guess you define your own, what it looks like. But as long as you're laughing, giggling, whatever, and enjoying yourself. Humor comes to mind with fun.
Good. Well, thank you for indulging us in the Kolby Culture Word Wave. All right, it's that exciting time, y'all. Head over to Kolby Kulture Show on IG and Facebook. Drop a comment with the hashtag Kolby Kulture Kids. Hashtag Kolby Kulture Kids, and share your favorite part of today's episode. You could be a winner of a signed copy of Kim's latest book, and some exclusive Kolby Kulture swag. We got some good swag, y'all. Some t-shirts, things of that nature. So make sure you follow us on IG and comment again with the hashtag Kolby Kulture Kids. All right, Kim, thank you so much for sharing your magical stories and incredible journey with us today. You're truly lighting up the world one book at a time. So tell our listeners what's next for you and how they can stay updated on all that's happening in your world.
Thank you. Thank you again for having me. If you would like to follow me, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook, both under Kim C. Lee Writes. What's next for me is this release of A Proud History for Alex. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, it is releasing on the 25th of June. June is a spectacular month for so many different reasons. So I hope that you can drop into my website at kimclee.com and pre-order this book. I hope that you can also join us at the book launch at the Sandy Springs Slave Museum and African Art Gallery on June 29th. I have all that information on my website or my Instagram or my Facebook. I should also mention that pre-orders are coming with a 19-ounce stainless steel tumbler. They're going to be fantastic while supplies last. While supplies last. And also that day at the Slave Museum and African Art Gallery, there's also going to be a celebration for HBCUs. So I hope to see everyone out there. And who knows, maybe I will be releasing another book before the end of the year. We'll see how that goes. Maybe lightning will be striking. in the next few days or so, and I can wrap up another book. So thank you again for having me, and I hope that everyone enjoyed our chat today, and reach out if you would like to reach out to me. Thank you.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you again, Kim, for joining us on the Kolby Kulture Show. And to all of my Kolby Kulture fam, keep nurturing your imagination, keep turning those pages, and remember to tune in next week for another fantastic episode of the Kolby Kulture Show. Until then, stay inspired and always keep it Kolby Kulture. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to follow the show wherever you listen to your podcast, watch and subscribe on YouTube, and please feel free to give us a 5-star rating. See you on the next one.